Hello, I'm drinking Weihenstephaner's Festbier. First time in cans. They're now canning a lot of stuff, and this is clearly a not a Märzen. Doesn't even say Oktoberfest anywhere. It just says Festbier. So Festbier is generally a strong Helles. It's probably hard to tell the difference between a Festbier and a Dortmunder. Märzens, what we think of more as Oktoberfest beers, are amber, sweet, maybe caramely. Fest beers are pale, a little sweet, teeny bit hoppy, but this is what generally, in the modern times, they came to drink at the Oktoberfest celebration. And this glass has a little bit of dirtiness. Yeah, you can see that's quite pale. Yeah, sometimes fest beers, people add some Munich malt and stuff to it, but this looks like it's just straight up Pilsner. Maybe there's a touch of it in there, but that is very pale. Nicely carbonated, 5.8% alcohol. And the best by date is May 25th of next year, so maybe it's a 1 year best by date, in which case it would be, like 3.5 months old, which for a German beer is pretty fresh. Maybe it's less, I don't know. I don't know what their dates. If you tap your glass gently, not breaking it, sometimes you can kind of clear up some of the dirty bubbles on the bottom. Yeah, that's kind of affecting the head from being super rich and thick. It's also humid. It just smells like a Helles lager. So if you don't know, Helles is just a really pale, clean German lager that isn't quite as dry and hoppy as a Pilsner, but very, very similar. Just like a little bit bigger, a little bit less on the hops, a little bit more malt focused. And this one is just that taken up to 5.8% alcohol. Let's just get it all in there. There you go. And it smells super duper clean. It doesn't have that old pasteurized dusty sort of smell you can get from some German imported beers that are a little bit old. It's kind of bright, a little bit of a lemony zest thing, but not as much as if it was a Pilsner. And just like a little bit of like white bread. A hint of minerality, but not sulfury, just like super, extremely clean, really well-made beer. Yeah, that smells like it's going to be extremely easy to drink. A little bit sweeter than expected, but I think that's the whole fest beer thing. And then finishes with just a little bit of a Italian bread crust, not quite baguette crust, because you might get a little bit of browning on a baguette, but this one is just like, it's got the bread crust, but it's like white bread crust. Maybe a little bit more quality to it than just Wonder Bread, but it has like the sweetness of like a Wonder Bread type thing. And there's some bitterness. Very, very, very light peppery quality in the finish. But extremely drinkable, very well balanced. It would be easy to drink a whole liter of this, as long as it doesn't get too hot. Then the sweetness might come out more, but after a few sips, there's a good amount of bitterness in this. This is probably one of the more bitter fest beers I've had, Märzen or fest beer or whatever. Yeah, definitely, it's drying out my tongue a little bit. And goes down easy, but it has like, it almost seems like it has like the hoppiness, a little bit of a Pilsner. Not as much in the aroma, but then it's just ramped up a little higher ABV, a little bit sweeter. But they didn't ramp up the hops of a, you know, a sub 5% Pilsner. Well carbonated, but that's a little necessary. Mm-hmm. And now I'm getting a little bit of a deeper, not quite toasty, definitely not caramely sweetness, but like vanilla wafer sort of thing going on. That's what I talk a lot about with Helleses and Pilsners, is that's kind of malt sweetness I get from these super pale malts. And it's beyond cracker, because cracker implies almost no sweetness. But this is like slightly sweet bread. What's a good way? Maybe panettone, not unflavored panettone, the Italian yeasted sort of cake bread thing. Maybe not that quite that far, but it's kind of interesting how it seems sweet at first. Then I noticed the hops coming in, and now there's sort of a lingering sweetness that came back from the malts kind of staying in the corners of my mouth and under my tongue. Very well made. Maybe it's good for people who think that all pale lagers and pilsners just are boring and suck. It doesn't quite make it to Hellesbock territory, which for some reason once you get over 6% with these pale lagers, I don't like them as much. Just that much ABV and fermentation character or something. But this one is really, really nice. And as you drink it, it just gets more complex in subtle ways. This is like a 4.25 beer for me. Maybe it deserves higher. Maybe if I poured it in a little bit of a cleaner glass. And there are actually tiny particulates in here. Wow. Wasn't expecting that. Well, that's enough. Bye-bye.